Britain is home to some of the most iconic dishes in the world. From fish and chips to steamed pudding, pie and mash to roast beef and Yorkshires.
Now it's time for the roast.
Our national favourites have been hundreds of years in the making, and I want to reveal the untold stories behind them.
Thumbs up!
How roast beef fueled the building of an empire and fish and chips helped save us in the war. To the great pudding robbery of 1718. I want to find out why they're so deeply rooted in our culture.
So who's up first?
I'll be hopping into my time machine to explore their secret histories.
Just looks wrong.
Looking for inspiration to create an epic culinary salute.
Let the feast begin.
Starting with fish and chips.
Looks like a depth charge.
I want to reveal the incredible tales from our past
If it had dried out, it would have blown up.
Oh my God, that would have been the end of him.
Yeah.
and discover the origins of this brilliant British food.
That puts hairs on your chest.
Before serving a spectacular fish and chip supper to fishermen and chip shop workers who make them possible.
Behold my monster of the deep.
Fish and chips are a British institution. Winston Churchill called them the good companions, and 14 million of us visit the chippy every week. I want to know why we love them so much and find out how they've become a treasured national dish, all in a bid to create an amazing four-course fish supper.
Right, one large cod and chips, please.
Of course.
Before you wrap it, salt and a generous supply of vinegar, please. Thank you very much.
I know how I like my fish and chips, but how do the great British public like theirs?
What would your ultimate fish and chip experience be?
It's got to have newspaper.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Norfolk Broads on a boat, wrapped up in paper.
Nice fresh fish, nice crispy batter.
Salt after the vinegar. Mushy peas, mushy peas. Sometimes I go and just buy the mushy peas.
Salt after the vinegar, mushy peas.
It needs to be after a long walk, and it's got to be outside, and it's got to be by the sea.
Great.
I like curry sauce in mine, actually. Curry sauce and mushy peas. Yeah, nice lot of salt, no vinegar. Don't like vinegar with that at all.
So I want to know where this love of fish and chips began. And for that, I need my time machine.
Here it is. It's a bit dusty, but hopefully it's in full working order.
First stop is Victorian Britain, where the Industrial Revolution is in full swing. We've been eating fried fish for centuries, as we have potatoes, but the Victorians put them together. They became a mass-market meal for the poor, thanks to another Victorian invention, the steam train. I'm hitching a ride on the Bluebell Railway with historian Rob Robinson.
So it's really thanks to the railways that fish and chips have become a kind of it's a national institution.
Oh, very much so. Trains cover the country, and of course we've got a railway network developed in the middle of the 19th century. One of the things that did was it gave us for the first time a means of moving perishable commodities like fish quickly from the coast inland to the big growing towns and cities. It made fish an article of cheap mass consumption, and we don't really know who, but between 1840 and 1880, 1870 probably, some genius put fish with chips, and the fish and chip shop as we know it emerged.
The idea for fish and chips is in fact far from British. We've got Jewish immigrants to thank for the fried fish and French for the chipped potatoes. But the Brits can take credit for putting the two together. Arguments rage over whether northern trader John Lees or Cockney entrepreneur Joseph Malin opened the first chippy. Either way, they caught on and went from 1 to 25,000 in just 40 years.
Fish and chips is the essence of the railway age. If you think about it, you're wrapping it in newspapers. This is the first time when you've got mass newspapers all over the country.
Because of the trains.
Because of the trains.
Today, fish and chips are the nation's favourite takeaway and an industry worth £1.2 billion. For my fish supper, I want to pay homage to the chippy, so So I'm thinking an appetiser that puts an entire fish and chip shop into one giant chip. To work out how on earth I'm going to do it, I've come to London's oldest surviving chippy with my teammate, Giles.
1 cod and chips, please.
The chippy menu has come a long way since its Victorian beginnings. Back then, there was only one option, fish and potatoes.
It's got to be mushy peas.
Yeah, mushy peas, please. How big's your saveloy?
They're the jumbo size.
Oh, you would say that, wouldn't you?
Oof, look at that.
We might have a couple of slices of bread with some butter as well, please. Right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
For my enormous appetiser, I want to capture the essence of the chippy in just one bite.
Centrepiece,
Absolutely.
wrapped in that.
Nice, very good. Doingy.
I think we should peel that.
Do you want me to get onto that?
Yes, please. We've got to work quickly because if we keep this warm, when we fry it, we only have to fry it to crisp it up. This is now looking like a vegetarian Savoy surprise. Now, that can be our centre. Then what we do for our coating...
Batter on, batter off.
Batter on. Salt,
Pickled onion vinegar.
pickled onion vinegar, malt vinegar.
Definitely some more.
Let's just give this... Oh, what to you? Let's put some tartar sauce in.
Oh, perfect.
Just let the fish and chip mince.
That's pretty good.
We've still got the final stage of trying to get this around the saveloy.
Oh, wowee. Look at that.
Is it like a giant herb-infused banger? Little do you know, it is the essence of a fish and chip shop.
A no chippy serving is complete without a good coating of batter.
Quickly.
That's it. There we go.
Did they go in?
Looks like a depth charge.
That's his sunk.
It's disappeared without trace.
There we are.
Whoa, look at that.
Glorious.
Pretty exciting.
Glorious.
Ooh, that's looking really good.
OK.
Let's go for it. It's a mix of everything. It's on the mark, I've got to say.
I think we're onto something here.
I should say so.
It is just so wrong, but yet so right. So that's the appetiser sorted. But to conjure up the rest of my magical fish and chip supper, I need more inspiration from the past. Next, I unearth one of Queen Victoria's favourite fish suppers.
Anyone fancy a bit of tongue?
No, really not.
I find out why we eat fish and chips on Fridays,
Get ye old fish and chipsies.
and take a closer look at the science behind an optical starter. Choo. I'm looking back in history to find out why fish and chips have such an important place in our hearts and to find inspiration for an amazing fish and chip supper. Fish and chips first fed the nation's poor during Queen Victoria's reign. And I've discovered that she was partial to a rather unusual fish dish. It may sound disgusting, but I'm hoping it will inspire the starter for my own fish supper. I've come to a Victorian folly, Chiddingstone Castle, to give it a try.
So the masses now were able to afford and eat fresh fish, battered, fried, with potatoes. But while they were tucking into that, the gentry were eating the very part of the fish you'd think you'd throw away. This, the head. There are many recipes in that period for stuffed cod's heads. So this recipe comes from somebody called Francatelli from, I think it's 1861, and was apparently Queen Victoria's favourite recipe.
Queen Victoria liked her food. Legend has it that she could polish off 7 courses in less than 30 minutes.
She's very technical, incredibly complicated. 1 handful of minced expensive veal, 1 hollow cod's head, and you put one inside the other. That's it.
It might involve bits of the fish that we now give to the cat, but I think Queen Victoria was onto something.
Because of all the work that George done around the cheeks, It's quite a dense, meaty texture, and it's got a lot of natural gelatin in there, which means when you cook it, it becomes really juicy. That is going to be fantastic. Whack that in the oven and give it a bit of a dusting with breadcrumbs about halfway through.
I've also found a Victorian recipe for posh chips. Mrs. Acton's potato ribbons.
Potatoes, butter, salt, cayenne pepper. Nothing wrong with that.
Ketchup as we know it didn't land on our tables until 1907, but Queen Victoria could have tried this red sauce with her cod's head, made from chopped oysters and coloured with crushed beetle shells.
Not the most delicious looking thing that I've ever cooked. There you go. I'll tell you what, that puts hairs on your chest.
But will this cod's head taste better than it looks? Time to try it on some 21st century taste buds. Starting with the eyeball.
Can I offer anyone an eyeball? It's quite crunchy. Fair play. Right. Anyone fancy a bit of tongue?
No,
Sure?
really not.
Come on, you lot. This was one of Queen Victoria's favourites.
Okay. It's not bad.
Not bad.
It's pretty good.
You actually thought you wouldn't be able to swallow that, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
These are the cheeks.
That's nice.
It's nice, isn't it?
It was much better than I thought it'd be, and the eye was surprisingly good.
I was really surprised. They all loved it. So I've got to take something from this recipe and carry it through for my grand finale.
I've already got a chippy and a giant chip. Now I'm going to add an eye-catching starter to my menu. Inspired by one of Queen Victoria's favourite fish dishes, I'm creating a supersized fake fish eyeball filled with a cod's head cocktail. So I've come to meet animal eye specialist David Williams for a few pointers on how to make it look as realistic as possible.
It's
nothing like cutting into an
dead
eye.
animal.
Oh, lovely. Listen to that.
Feel that crunch.
Up on the chopping block is an eyeball once owned by a tuna fish.
Look at that gloriously spherical lens there.
Wow.
Isn't that glorious?
It's amazing.
Superb. Because the front of the cornea...
I think the key to pulling off my fake eyeball is finding the right texture.
And then there's the vitreous gel.
The closest food thing I can think to this is a very freshly laid egg white.
Right.
You know how it gets sort of mucousy?
Yeah. I'm just going to wash my hands for a moment, so I'll come back to you in a second. I don't like having...
It's surprising how the casing of this, it's quite tough,
Very
isn't it?
tough, isn't it? That's right, yes.
It's got a slightly metallic finish to it, hasn't it? I mean, almost like it's been almost gilded.
Gilded. That's right. Actually, the fish has a really silver... The iris there... OK, and then the cornea is firm but squidgy.
That's
To
actually...
use a technical term.
Yeah, it's a bit like a sheet of gelatin.
Yeah,
or
that's right,
something.
exactly, that's right, yes. And that's basically what it is.
Mm-hmm. David, thank you for that. That was absolutely fascinating.
So it's back to my lab to put everything into practice.
This is the first part of my edible eyeball, and this is going to be the iris, which is the bit around the outside of the pupil.
I'm brushing gold leaf onto a disc of plain set jelly.
This is going to give that beautiful metallic shimmering effect I saw in the tuna eyeball. And then it wouldn't be a self-respecting, delicious eyeball without some blood veins, would it? So I'm just putting some strands of saffron. And now I need to add the pupil.
Which is another plain set jelly coloured with squid ink.
I also wanted to give this eyeball a little bit more richness. So for the cornea, which is the covering over the eyeball, I've made a jellied veal stock. I was so excited and surprised at the reaction I got from that old stuffed cod's head recipe People loved the parts of the head, the cheeks and the tongue and the throat. So I thought, right, that's got to be at the heart of my edible eyeball. So what I've got in here is a cod's head cocktail, just bound with a Mary Rose sauce. Right, I'm now going to put that into the fridge just to set.
So with all the elements ready, all that's left to do now is cover the set mixture with my special casing and add it to its cocktail base. And there you have it, one Queen Victoria-inspired fake fish eyeball. My fish eye starter is almost in the bag. I now just need a fish to serve it in, and it can't be any old fish. I want it to look like a monster from the deep.
Just huge, sharp teeth with a massive underbite.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go into the mouth and you pull out these pieces of fish.
Oh, very good. Very good.
See? And I was thinking, you know, you get pickled onions and pickled eggs. Well, pickled monster of the deep eggs. And you stand under the backside of the fish, because we catch this fish right in the middle of spawning season.
And then you scoop out its roe.
You don't even scoop out, it just plops out straight into the jar.
That sounds delicious.
I think that'll get everyone off to a great start.
Now for my main course. I'm going back over 500 years to find inspiration in the roots of a great British tradition, Fish and Chip Friday. 1 in 5 Friday night takeaways is from the chippy. Canteens and schools and workplaces across the country all dish up Friday fish and chips. It's a British way of life. And its heyday lies all the way back in Tudor England, my next stop. Hampton Court Palace, home of party-loving Henry VIII. The Catholic Church had banned eating meat for almost half the year, including Friday, forcing people to eat fish. Sneaking a ham sarnie could land you a fine, prison sentence, or time in the stocks. Henry was a man who liked his meat, so his cooks came up with some clever recipes to make the best of a bad situation. Historian Mark Meltonville is showing me one of them.
For your piety, for your church, you're not supposed to eat a large piece of meat. Now, if you've got money, that's exactly what you want to do. If you work in a kitchen like this and you're one of the chefs here, you're going to come up with interesting ways of making fish a little bit different. So, yes, it's a fish day, but look what we've done.
Add one nicely cleaned rib bone and you have a royal favourite, a mutton cutlet, albeit made out of salmon. But it wasn't just salmon that Henry VIII's chefs used. They thought anything that spent time in the sea was a fish. So this dish could just as easily have been made with beaver, porpoise, or a whale.
It's cool, isn't it? It's great.
We've just created a dish for a fish day based on a meat dish designed to fool all the guests into thinking, should I really be eating that?
So all we need now is the chips.
The common spud wouldn't arrive from South America for another 40 years. And although the sweet potato had made an appearance, it really hadn't caught on. Well, not in cooking, at least.
Well, one of the fun things about all new ingredients is when they're expensive, and only the wealthy can have them, they're always aphrodisiacs. So the potato starts off as this wonderful exotic vegetable. The moment poor people can afford them, they think, oh, actually, we were wrong. It's something else.
As there is no such thing as a Tudor chip, we're cooking a crunchy alternative side dish, a 16th century waffle made with batter and fish stomachs.
Tastes like a slightly fishy waffle, that's
Yeah,
obvious.
but that's what we were intending, and that's what we got.
And what I find fascinating is this recipe is 600
years old.
It's exactly the same as a waffle recipe today, apart from the fish roe.
And to complete Henry VIII's fake fish supper...
Green.
Some Tudor prank peas, fish eggs dyed with parsley water. Those Tudors, they certainly enjoyed a practical joke.
What do you reckon? Stir it in, leave it on top, see if it dies?
I'll leave it to you. I just can't see how that colour's going to go into those eggs.
What I think we've done is just made the roe really unappetising.
It's like pond water. I have to say, you have to have a really, really creative imagination.
Perhaps it was dark. You know, one candle. It might have worked.
Could this Tudor meal be the inspiration for the main course of my fish supper?
Get ye, get ye, get ye, ye old fish and chipsies.
Time to find out what the people think. First off, my fishy cutlet.
Tastes nice. Tastes like fish cake, yeah. Very good, Heston. Mm-hmm. Well done.
Delicious.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Is that a thumbs up?
That's
Yeah,
a
this is
massive thumbs up.
fantastic.
Yeah.
What about my waffles?
Lovely.
Look like waffles. Nice tasty. It's nice.
Very tasty.
So far, so good. Medieval prank peas, anyone?
It's very salty.
Really salty. It's like seawater.
Do they look like peas to you?
What kind of peas you been eating?
Would you be happy to seal these in a fish and chip shop?
Yes. No. No. That one.
This is nice. I wouldn't be excited to see this anywhere.
That's staying out, is it?
Yeah.
Vetoed.
Some mixed results, but people love the fun of Tudor recipes. This has given me an idea for my main course.
I love the fact that you go back in history, recipes were still playful. Food had that ability to do that, and it still has. So if I can capture some of that playfulness and disguise in my fish and chip experience, that's going to be fantastic.
I'm planning to pay homage to the ingenuity of Henry VIII's chefs and serve battered fish in disguise in a dish fit for a king. This may look like an ordinary bit of fish to you, but it's far from it.
I love skin on my fish and chips. Some people don't. So what I've decided to do is to create a magical skin and something with a really special flavour.
The base of my fake fish skin is a very special gelling agent.
It's used in such a wide range of products. Biscuits, kiddies, potato shapes. It's a lubricant, and it's even used to cure irritable bowel syndrome and a good dose of hemorrhoids. I'm just using it to make some synthetic fish skin.
I've had a bespoke mould made.
If you look closely, it's got the mottled effect of fish skin.
The first layer, I'm applying squid ink. I want to make my fake fish skin look like that chip shop favourite, Place.
Place has the addition of these little orange dots. So for my orange dots, I'm going to be using these, sea urchins. And these are wonderfully aromatic, almost floral.
I've mixed the sea urchins with my gelling agent. And I'm finishing with a layer of truffle and Madeira gel.
So now for the fish, I'm using turbot. To me, it's just the best. It's gelatinous, it's juicy, got a beautiful texture to it. Also withstands the frying really well. By keeping the pieces of fish smaller, they'll retain more moisture and be juicy and moist all the way through.
Because this is inspired by Henry's decadence, I've just got to add some more truffle. But unlike those Tudors who like their fish fried in breadcrumbs, I'm going to deep fry mine in my amazing batter. It took me years to develop this technique of using a siphon to perfect that light, crisp texture. Batter keeps the fish moist so that it steams but doesn't overcook. It provides the perfect final element for my fish in disguise.
I don't think battered fish is ever going to be more decadent than this.
So that's the fish sorted. What about the chips? Next, I reveal the secret to the best chips on the planet. Discover how our favourite dish helps save the nation.
If you dragged up a live one of those, you could be in a bit of bother.
If it had dried out, it would have blown up.
And try to recreate the smell of the chip shop with the appliance of science.
Whoa!
I want to discover why we love fish and chips so much. The secret history of this British institution has inspired me to create the ultimate fish dish. But what about the ultimate chip?
Baby, the chips are big as the chips me mother used to make.
Whether it's straight, chunky, crinkled or wedged, Britain just can't get enough. We eat the equivalent weight of 4,000 jumbo jets in chips every single year, fueling a massive industry worth £434 million.
Oh, biscuits, it's chips. We are biscuits.
For years, I was obsessed with perfecting the ultimate chip.
I wanted a chip that was light and fluffy on the inside and a beautiful glass-like crust on the exterior.
The triple cooked chip was the first recipe I ever invented. The secret is simmering them till they almost fall apart and then fry them twice in very hot oil to make them super crispy. But I also want to pay homage to the chip shop chip.
Part of the magic for me of a fish and chip shop chips are all the soggy bits that you get on the bottom. They're kind of steamed and lost their crust, and also they get all the vinegar gets soaked up inside them. So what I've done here is I've made my own soggy chip dip. I've taken some chips from the chippy and then just pureed them with a particular malt that breaks down the starches, so it stops it going gloopy, and then added some good old malt vinegar. So for me, by creating this dip, I've now got the best of both worlds. And for the full fish and chip shop experience, there is only one way to eat your chips, and that is wrapped in newspaper with your fingers. Cheers.
But it's not just the taste of the chippy I want to celebrate, it's also the smell. The ingredient in that delicious vinegary aroma is acetic acid, which actively makes you salivate.
Just waft it. Waft.
So I'm visiting Professor Andreas Seller, hoping that he can help me find a novel way to disperse that mouth-watering smell to my guests.
I'd love to create somehow this kind of cloud, this mist, this explosion of smell that reminds people of the fish and chip shop.
The trick is going to be to find some kind of happy balance between getting the smell, but on the other hand, not overdoing it. It's about to go, I think. I can smell a little bit of vinegar, but you've got to be standing right here. So, sorry. Not fast enough.
After a whole morning of trial and error, we still haven't found a way to spread my vinegar cloud, so I'm leaving the professor to come up with a plan. Whilst I turn my attention to that classic fish and chip accompaniment, mushy peas. I'm looking for inspiration for a mushy pea dish, so I'm visiting a man whose family have been serving mushy peas for over 75 years.
Hey, Gary, how you doing?
Lovely to see you.
Yeah, you too. How's it going?
Gary's pea stall in Great Yarmouth is unique. No fish, no chips. It specialises in mushy peas.
It's funny because I always think about mushy peas being a key part to fish and chips, but just to tuck into mushy peas on their own.
Over the years, that's just evolved like that. You know, the big foundries and the mills, they used to come here for their holidays, and all we did was sell what they used to eat. And it's just stuck there over the years.
What do people put on their mushy peas?
Well, a lot of them like mint sauce. That's a big favourite. But all I do is put a little bit of vinegar and pepper on mine.
No one knows exactly when mushy peas appeared on the chippy menu, but like fish and chips, they were first popular as a cheap source of protein for the poor.
Really nice, aren't they?
Time to roll up my sleeves.
OK, who wants some peas?
Are we organised?
It's a big part of my youth, coming here and having mushy peas with my dad.
Thank you very much.
Another one down here, Heston. I'll bring that one down here. Oh, 2 more, Heston, when you're ready,
young
please.
Man. 2 more?
I was born in Great Yarmouth. I brought Misty back from Texas, 5,000 miles to come and try mushy peas. There you go.
Hang on, Gazza, I might have to slow down here because
I like them. I do. Those are wonderful.
Well done, Heston. You've done really well. You've actually surprised me, you have.
Have I?
I didn't think you'd do as well as this.
From this little experience, you can see people love mushy peas, but the thing I'm really going to take away from here is you could just serve a bowl of peas. That's it. So I want to take the mushy peas out of my fish and chips and serve them as a separate dish.
But I'm not going to give my guests what they expect, so I'm turning this savoury accompaniment into a dessert.
So I want to try and capture that fantastic childhood memories of eating fish and chips by the sea. And after the fish and chips, what else do you have? When you think about it, you go on summer holiday, it's ice cream. So what I've got here is some milk, some cream, a bit of sugar and a bit of skim milk powder, and then a very concentrated, ultra-smooth pea puree. It's really refreshing, surprisingly delicious.
I just can't resist adding a bit more magic to my dessert.
So here we've got chocolate bars, and for added crunch and that bit of childhood magic, popping candy.
But for an extra twist, I want to make my flakes look like chips, so I'm dipping them in a mixture of dark and white chocolate.
As a kid, what more do you want? A chip and a chocolate all in the same thing. But childhood memory is also so much about context and things like packaging and stuff. That really is such a massive part of the whole experience. So I want to serve my chips in an old fish and chip box lined with edible newspaper and in the little cone there. And to dip the chips in, what do you dip your chips in? Tomato ketchup. It does sound odd. Actually, this isn't ketchup. It's a rose hip and raspberry puree.
Finish it off with a few shakes of real salt, and there you have it. Chocolate chips with mushy pea ice cream.
So the menu for my ultimate fish supper, that's all sorted, but I still need to find somewhere to serve it. So I'm thinking, just like the recipes, I might be able to find the perfect location in the history books.
By World War II, fish and chips had indisputably become a treasured national dish. It was so ingrained in our psyche that the government believed if fish was rationed, morale would suffer. So they bent over backwards to keep it off the ration card. So I'm off to the war years to complete the story of why we've taken this dish to our hearts. I'm in Brixham in Devon, a vital frontline fishing port during World War II, to hear the story of Britain's fishermen who helped us win the war. Ken is a third-generation fisherman whose father landed an 80-pound wartime catch, a bomb capable of blowing a fishing boat to pieces.
So that's your dad?
Yes.
What kind of fish has he caught there?
I'm not sure what that is, but I don't think he kept it very long.
I don't think you could deep fat fry that one. So I guess that was a bit of an occupational hazard as a fisherman. If you dragged up a live one of those, you could be in a bit of bother, couldn't you?
Yeah, it's a good job that didn't dry out, because if it had dried out, it would have blown up.
Oh, my God, that would have been the end of him.
Yeah.
Skipper Davidson was in his wheelhouse when two Messerschmitts zoomed down on him. For 50 minutes, they pumped the wheelhouse with incendiary bullets.
Under constant attack from submarines and dive bombers, more than 1,200 World War II fishermen lost their lives, and many ports lost half their fishing fleet. Despite their best heroic efforts, fish supplies fell short, so the government were forced to issue this alternative fish recipe to have with our chips.
Mock fish. If there was no fish around, you made this dish, which apparently looks like fish.
It's basically rice, margarine, flour and onion, with a bit of anchovy to give it that fish flavour.
It looks like somewhere between porridge and rice pudding, but with an anchovy smell.
By dishing it up with chips, the government hoped this fish and chip supper would continue to keep families in good spirits.
And there we have that classic wartime speciality, mock fish. Rubs up!
Will this wartime recipe form my crew of salty sea dogs?
No.
Monkfish. Mockfish.
You smell fish?
Like a mixture.
Okay.
It's really, really tasty, isn't it?
Yes. Well, I thought it was fish.
I'm amazed by the bravery and dedication of Britain's fishermen and their contribution to winning World War II. It's a little-known story of heroism and sacrifice. It's given me inspiration for the location of my event.
I've decided I've got to have my fish and chip experience right here in Brixham.
To really make the most of this beautiful seaside location, I want to conjure up a few magical extras to blow my diners' minds.
One of my fondest memories of the seaside was rockpooling. So I've decided I want to make an edible rockpool.
First up, completely edible mussels. I'm using a special sugar called mannitol, often found in diabetic chewing gum.
If you heat it up to over 160 degrees centigrade, as it cools, it will very quickly crystallize and form a hard shell. So if I pop this out of the mold, I have one edible mussel shell.
And finish off with some edible shimmer.
I now need to make my mussel filling.
which is a kind of mussel custard made from mussel stock, double cream, and heat-resistant gel.
The smell that's coming off here now is incredibly aromatic. It's like the most wonderful moules marinière custard.
Once set, my mussel fillings are placed into their shells.
So we are, totally edible mussel.
But no rockpool would be complete without starfish. And mine are made of a special kind of lobster soup, added to gelatine and dispersed into starfish moulds.
Now, who said never play with your food?
Next, it's all hands on deck to pull off the most incredible fish and chips supper ever.
Behold, my monster of the deep.
I've been on a voyage of discovery to reveal the secret history of one of the nation's most iconic dishes.
That's pretty good.
Fish and chips. This humble dish helped build Britain by freeing the poor from gruel and dripping, boosting morale during 2 world wars and feeding millions of childhood memories. Today I'm serving up my spectacular fish and chips supper. And I've sent invites to the fish friers, the fishermen and fishmongers in the picturesque port of Brixham, Devon.
Really excited. It's amazing.
Greetings to the lucky holder of this golden ticket from Heston Blumenthal.
Oh, wow.
In your wildest dreams, you cannot imagine the fish and chip extravaganza that awaits you. Okay?
I wanted to celebrate our historical love and passion for fish and chips. In order to do that, I wanted to create the most spectacular fish and chip shop you could ever imagine. So welcome to HMS Chippy.
I've taken command of this galleon in Brixham Harbour. It's a replica of the ship once captained by explorer Francis Drake, the man we can thank for introducing us to the potato. Today, it's giving my golden ticket holders a fish and chip experience they'll never forget. Time to get those mouths watering, and I've finally come up with a novel way to disperse the smell of a chippy. Vinegar-laden cannons.
Fire! How you doing? How you doing? Welcome on board.
It's the moment I've been waiting for. Time to get this show on the road. First up is the starter.
I've gone fishing. And this is obviously a very special boat, so I've caught a very special fish. Behold, my monster of the deep. Over here, we have a very special eyeball.
Inspired by Queen Victoria's love of the fish head, my prize peeper is filled with cod's cheek and tongue and covered with saffron-infused jelly. But this lot don't know that.
I always think it's best to start an eyeball through the pupil.
Oh, okay. Braver than me.
You're next.
Don't say that, you're next.
So it's got lots of different bits in there that is a bit scary, but no, it tastes good.
The jelly is very tasty. Yeah, I'd eat that on a weekly basis.
Can't be that bad.
It actually is delicious. Nice and chewy. Yeah. Just like an eye should be.
Oh, it's not bad. A bit tartar saucy. It's quite tangy. You don't think it's going to taste like that when you look at it at all. Definitely.
They liked the taste of the cos head, but gouging it from a giant eyeball was maybe a step too far. There are more surprises to come. Waiting in the wings is my show-stopping amuse-bouche. So this is my Rockpool. Everything is edible. So we've got the coral here, green tea and squid ink sponge that's been dried. We've got sponges made from shiitake mushrooms. There's a whole load of seaweeds, and some of them are real seaweeds, and other ones, like this one, codium, is a jelly. Not forgetting my edible mussels and lobster-flavoured starfish, all dipped in edible pool water, made from soy sauce and citrus juices. And finally, your own edible miso and tapioca sandcastle.
What you say?
Can we eat everything?
The whole thing?
Yeah.
That's chewable?
Yeah.
What is that there? What is this stuff here? Can you eat that or not?
That, that was edible.
Never 25 years onward, I think that I'd be eating the stuff that I've been catching as a child.
This is really nice. It tastes exactly how seaside would smell. Does that make sense?
Very tasty, actually, very tasty. I'll go in for another bite, I think.
I have not got a clue what this mussel's going to taste like. Looks pretty jelly.
Oh, cold. That's an unusual yeah, that's not normal.
This is a crazy sensation. It's just so odd.
And there's one final resident for my Rockpool, soft-shell crab.
It's nice, actually.
Things don't look like they should be eating them, but yet they taste really nice.
It feels so wrong eating a bucket of sand. This stuff's really Moorish. Have you tried this?
Now I've whet their appetites, it's time to dish up my main course fit for a king. Here is the fish and chip shop counter of my 70s charters, complete with some dodgy illustrations, salt and vinegar pots, and a really poorly spelt menu board. Fish and chips.
Yep.
In honour of Henry VIII, who loved his food in disguise, here is my battered turbot with truffle and sea urchin skin.
I expected something exceptional, and this is exceptional.
Along with my signature triple cooked chips.
These are the best chips I've ever had.
Served with a special soggy chip dip. You know, soggy vinegar-laden chips underneath?
Yeah.
What we've done is squash them so much, and we've made a little dip with them.
Soggy chip dip. Now that does taste like it should be, if you see what I mean.
And the fish is gorgeous, really tasty. Beautiful butter. The batter is really, really crisp.
Delicious.
The truffle and the skin that you've made, that sort of makes it really.
And visually it looks right, but it's a complete whole different twist on it. And it works, do you know what I mean? It just works. It's brilliant.
And I've a final surprise for the main course. It's an entire chip shop in a chip. Right, who's for a giant chip? This incredible edible is my homage to the chippy, including mushy peas and saveloy in just one bite.
Good. Really good. It's like fish chips all in one.
Oh, wow, come on.
Vinegar, salt, fish, mushy peas, the saveloy.
It's all in one, mate.
So, yes.
It's just very sick.
We always saveloy.
Oh, yeah, saveloy.
I want more peas.
Cheers, Dan.
Cheers.
And of course, no fish and chip supper is complete without a pickled egg. So my monster fish is dishing them out from every orifice. It's spawning pickled quail's eggs.
Delicious, isn't it?
Yeah.
Never taste anything like that.
No, fantastic.
Something wonderful is happening on board HMS Chippy. A wave of seaside nostalgia has hit the decks.
It doesn't feel right. I mean, you've got a shell in my mouth.
All the work that's gone into this, and sometimes you're thinking, oh, is it going to work? Is it going to work? And I'm still thinking that, but when you're here, on this boat, all of this in this setting, it's pretty special. And last but not least, a dessert with a twist. Mushy pea ice cream with chocolate chips, served with rosehip and raspberry sauce, are the final element to my fish and chip supper with all the trimmings.
Not
crunchy.
Crunchy chocolate and
Sweet, and then popping candy. Oh, yeah.
They ever just bouncing around your mouth. Bouncing around.
honestly the best dessert slash main meal I've ever had.
Red sauce is dead nice.
It doesn't matter if you're 5 or 50. Yeah. Everyone's going to love popping candy chips, isn't they?
It's brought us back to childhood, really.
And then all the delicious smells have been great. That takes you back as well. You walk onto the boat and you can just smell everything, and it was just crazy.
We won't be forgetting this in a hurry, no, not at all. Something to tell the grandkids.
It is fish and chips on a different level. I've been a fisherman for many years, and it just blew my mind away. It's fantastic.
Heston's done something today that, well, I'll tell you what, I'll never forget it.
Britain loves fish and chips. I had no idea of the rich history and effect that it's had over the years on this country. The fantastic thing is, fish and chips is a great British tradition that's here to stay.
Next time, I'm looking at the roast beef dinner. The oyster pudding's delicately infused with a hint of smoke. I'll explore the origin of this national dish.
Do you reckon you guys could have got one over the French with this in your stomachs?
And create an amazing 21st century spit roast. Now it's time for the roast.
Behind the scenes of a West End retail institution facing up to a crucial Christmas. Liberty of London, available now on 4OD. Well, next here on Actually On Now Telly, there's Fallout in Masters of Sex.